how to build communities using technology. I believe that this concept has never been more relevant, especially because, as most of you have realized, that through this situation of COVID, we are in a place where most people have never actually used digital communities or platforms such as Slack. They've never actually had a virtual call, and nor have they worked from home. Were you guys ever using MSN Messenger when it came out a few years ago?
MSN Messenger? Yeah.
So obviously MSN Messenger is one of the first community platforms that was ever created. It is the original Slack, the original WhatsApp, the original LinkedIn or Facebook Messenger. And yet most people seem to forget that they ever had any interaction with connecting with others online, conversing with others online, and also using emojis or GIFs. So I just wanted to take it back to a second just to remind us all of MSN Messenger, the joy that it brought when you were talking to others, the interest that it brought when we were having conversations. And now sitting in a situation where through COVID, we are social distancing, we are self-isolating, there's ample opportunity for us to bring back technology in our day-to-day and not be ashamed or afraid to use it, but use it as an asset, a real kind of value driver, including this discussion itself. It's only made possible through virtual conferencing and virtual connection, which means that there is a massive opportunity at this moment for us to connect with people globally, but also to share knowledge and to learn from them. 1 in 5 of the UK population suffer from loneliness. Obviously, being based in the UK, these are stats from the UK. But I know that when you look across Europe, in some parts of Europe, the percentages are far higher. And what loneliness really means is that 1, you have a disconnect from those around you. 2, your emotions really come into play. And 3, your mental expectations. And by mental expectations, we mean the expectation you have of somebody to reply back in a certain way, to interact in a certain way, or to comfort you in a certain way, versus what the reality is. And the reason I also wanted to bring this into light is being in the digital sphere and being in a place now where we are asked to work from home, where many of us are isolating and are not interacting with anyone on a day-to-day, versus kind of the average week, we interact with at least 25 people a day, even if that means just commuting, talking, interacting on a non-kind of face-to-face basis. It can be very detrimental. It can actively affect our mental health. It will most likely put you in a place of discomfort, and you start to question things that you hadn't before. And that's also why I'm really pleased that you chose to create this Women in Tech group online rather than wait until we were out of this kind of mayhem, because it just means that it gives everyone a forum to come and connect, to chat, to share, and most importantly, feel like they are connected. So what is my background? Why am I sitting here today? So I graduated in 2015, went into the world of technology, and all the stories that they tell you about women in tech, I genuinely faced the struggles, everything from a sense of discrimination to not necessarily having that community go to. I found it really difficult, and especially as a junior in my career. And so I branched out looking for that community. But again, being based in London, everything was either very expensive or not within the simple needs that I required. And there definitely wasn't the groups online. So I decided to create a brunch, selfishly because I love to brunch, so I thought other people would too, where women could come together and talk about common challenges they faced in technology. Within 2 weeks of creating a private LinkedIn group and inviting my very small handful of connections, putting it on Eventbrite, I showed up to brunch and waited for my life to be changed by this community. And an hour later, nobody showed up. So it was just me by myself in this restaurant, thinking that I was going to have this community around me who were going to really help me feel better. Well, that was lesson number one. Lesson number one was I hadn't communicated with someone to ask what they needed. I just expected someone to meet me and deliver and kind of meet my demands in the way that I wanted. Long story short, we hosted another brunch. I hosted another brunch. Brunches went to workshops. Workshops went to corporate training. Corporate training went to a lot more virtual and online courses, webinars, and workshops. And in 2019, I had a community following of over 9,000 across all social media. Personally upskilled 900 people, engaged with over 12,000. And most importantly, I was able to create that sense of community that didn't necessarily exist, not only in technology, but we expanded it out to across industries, and it was inclusive. So despite being called like-minded females, our community was 30% men, 70% women, or those who identified as that particular tick box. We had a large demographic of intersectional individuals who came to light. And as of a few months ago, I decided that this has become more than just a network. It's become a movement. It's a community really changing the narrative of inclusion. We've done that through life skills workshops, through digital community building, and through training, both at university level and at corporate level. So we now go into corporates and universities to help them build their own communities. And what a community basically means, it's a safe space where we can share stories, exchange information, upskill, and connect with one another. If you are two or more people, you're a community already. And so that very narrow view or very dynamic view of community has changed. It's on a spectrum. It's not narrow nor dynamic. It's something of a hybrid. It's, yes, you have a particular cause and value, and yet you're flexible and you're able to adapt. And so I'm really grateful to be here today to talk about communities, to talk about technology, because it was genuinely technology that helped me build a community. And most importantly, it was tech that necessarily, I would say, saved my life. And it was definitely technology that helped me with my mental health when I needed to connect with other people. The idea of social belonging connectivity is actually something that's currently being researched on and has been for the last 40 to 50 years, most predominantly in the States. And there's a number of theorists that have come out with this scale of social belonging. It's awfully relevant today, given that we are in a place where we no longer socially belong due to the fact we're socially distancing, and yet we want to be of something larger than ourselves. So I will share the following 3 questions with you, and I'd like you to answer them and reflect on them within your own kind of headspace. You don't have to share, but it would just be interesting to know how you feel about this. So for one, if you had a problem, you would know which friend to go to help you find the answer. 2, if you lacked community, you would know where to go for that connectivity. And 3, you feel like you have someone who is there for you when you need them. Now, for many of us, the answers will be 3 and under, which means that we don't have the clue. Maybe we don't have the answer. Maybe we're still seeking for it. And that's where communities come into play. Communities can definitely and most definitely help us with finding a friend, someone to talk to, someone to go to, and that idea that connectivity can help bring social belonging. It can help bring pleasure and happiness, but most importantly, it can help us with our mental health when we feel lonely. I'm sure everyone's heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For those who haven't, just to summarize, Maslow shared that in order for you to feel like you belong and achieve self-actualization, you have to psychologically meet your needs, then go on to safety and love and belonging. Now, love and belonging is where it pivots. Research shows that most people get to love and belonging and are never able to go further. Whereas I argue that Maslow's needs of hierarchy most definitely, because of its time, did not include technology. It was very silo because it did not include the flexibility and the hybrid that we currently live in. And most importantly, it assumed that everyone had the same basic needs and the same basic resources, which we know is not to be true. Today, in the midst of COVID, many of us have been asked to work from home, and yet we don't even have the basic skills required to know how to do so. Last week, I did a webinar on work from home for beginners. Over 80 people signed up asking the basic questions like, how do we set a routine? How do we structure ourselves? How do we talk to people? How do I feel like I can just have a friendship without having to leave the comfort of my house or the room? And so I argue that we should have the hierarchy of needs in today's century, using the details and the directions of today. So for example, our basics should be the same. Basics include education, they include water, they include having fresh air, as simple as that. And then I believe that technology comes next, because technology is an enabler, but it's also a bridge between communities, between identity, and most importantly, between confidence. And I most definitely believe, being on my own journey and having shared so already, that community has helped me to find a sense of confidence, a sense of identity. And I think one of our colleagues already mentioned that I seem like I'm an influencer or famous in tech. Though I'm not, the fact is that technology has enabled me to build a profile, and technology has enabled me to build and find my community who match the circle that I want to be around, shared values, shared morals, and create that sense of skill sharing and education that makes you an expert in the field that you are. But most importantly, gives you the confidence to be able to, for example, virtually conference in and talk to strangers about something you've experienced and encourage them to do so too. 3 billion people are online. These stats were from 2019, so I can only assume that today the number is far greater. And 70% are looking for a community, and over 70% are looking for connectivity. So if we're online, what can we start doing today to create that sense of community, to be connected, and most importantly, to feel like we are not alone? For one, we can connect. At this point in time, it's never been more important to have an updated LinkedIn profile or an Instagram or a social media platform where you can connect with others. It doesn't matter if you don't know them necessarily, but if you like what they're doing, if you follow them and you think they're inspiring, I encourage you to reach out and connect with a short message. And then we get to chat. Being online also means that you're able to chat with anyone and everyone globally. It means that we're able to converse and share ideas and learn from each other. And then lastly, champion. Using tech to form communities doesn't just mean that you have to build a community from scratch, but it means that you can most definitely encourage, share, like, post, comment on that is already happening in the world, and show that you're championing the movement and feel connected in one space or another. Some of us will be more extrovert, some of us will be more introvert. And so for those who are introvert or slightly more reserved and shy using technology, I would suggest starting from a point of championing and then going upwards, because those that you already in your circle, you can champion quite quickly, and then you'll build the confidence to connect. For those who are more extrovert or more outgoing, it's easier for us to connect, start a conversation, then start championing things that we feel are necessary and great. Obviously, the fact that people have showed up to this meetup today means that we're connecting, we're chatting, we're championing, and hopefully we can carry on doing so and using tech to build that community. So now is the time to build communities using technology. Now is the time where we should be online, where we should be connecting, where we should be chatting, where we should be championing. And most importantly, now is the time where we can really facilitate that movement into the digital sphere, the digital space, which the generations after us have been doing so kindly and so well, and the generation above us have been reluctant to take on. So my name is Sonya Barlow. That was all I really wanted to share and say. Thank you for inviting me on today. And kind of, just to summarize, now is the time to build communities using technology. It's never been easier, never been faster, never been simpler. And I encourage you all to really assess what your value drivers are, what skills you'd like to upskill in, or just the kind of people you'd want to talk to, and go out and find them. Thank you.